In Boise, Idaho, tenants and advocates blame greedy landlords for high rents, but landlords point at rising costs and record inflation. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the fact that housing costs are increasing. And guess what? They are blaming landlords. So, I've been talking about this issue for a while. This is why they've been proposing these eviction moratoriums. This is why they've been proposing rent control. This is why all of these new laws and rules and regulations are being proposed all throughout the country, because they think that they can basically legislate the problem away. They think that government can solve high housing costs. Well, the truth of the matter is, the private industry has to step in. They have to be able to build new housing. There has to be enough housing for everyone in order to bring costs down. The fact that they flooded the market with money by throwing all that stimulus cash out there, etc., in the last year, that is part of the reason why inflation is so high. You throw on top of that all the nonsense going on over in Ukraine right now, and guess what? Hey, it's not the fault of the landlords that we have to raise the rent. We're spending more money on everything, okay? Our fuel costs go up, for our utilities. Our maintenance costs go up. Our capital expenditure costs go up. Our insurance, my insurance on every one of my properties increased this year. Okay? People, they don't realize all of the things that are involved. Then we're talking about landlords who have large commercial loans that maybe have a 5-year bubble. Well, guess what? Those landlords have to refinance. So a landlord who has to refinance that property might end up stuck with a higher payment because they have a higher interest rate now than they did when they first bought the property. So all of the costs involved for the landlord, they're truly dependent on each individual situation. And when they throw out these blanket solutions, such as, rent control, or, you can't ever evict these tenants, or, basically trying to falsely limit how much the landlords can raise the rent, well, guess what? That creates a true problem. Okay? Now, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that greedy landlords are to blame for the rising cost of rent? Do you think greedy landlords are what's causing all the costs to go up? Really? Think about it for a moment there. If you're a tenant watching this video, you have to admit that the cost of everything, including your rent, has increased in the last year. Don't blame us landlords. Go down and talk to your president, Joe Biden, because he's the one who is putting a lot of these, policies in place that have caused all of this inflation. So, this article is coming from the IdahoStatesman.com, and it says, "Are rising costs making Boise area landlords raise rents? Or are they just greedy?" Well, you already know what I think, but let's see what the article says. Sitting in a conference room on the 3rd floor of the building where Tomlinson and Associates is located, Jim Tomlinson weaved his way through explaining his business and ultimately his passions. 40 minutes into the interview, Tomlinson paused. "I get emotional. I think housing is a basic human right, and we don't recognize that," Tomlinson, a Boise developer of affordable and market rate apartments, said while choking back tears. "We ought to all recognize that we should provide safe and affordable housing for everyone somehow. We just need to figure out how to do it." Well, I disagree with him already, I don't believe that housing is a basic right, okay? Basic rights are like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not a house, okay? That's completely ridiculous. Because when we were talking about, the government should provide housing for people, or other people should provide housing for me because I don't want to work for it on my own. No, just like food isn't even a human right, okay? People donate food and help people out. People will donate housing and help people out. But that doesn't mean that you are entitled to it, okay? But I'm on a tangent, so let's keep going. "Landlords are frequently assigned the role of villain in the drama that is decline of Boise as an affordable city for ordinary workers. Landlords might raise rents because they can. After all, newcomers keep coming. Wannabe tenants need housing. They'll pay what they must to secure a place to live, even if that tops the 25 to 30% of income that is normally considered the most that lower and working class tenants should spend on housing. With rents up sharply, investments are paying off. Out-of-state apartment developers have smelled opportunity in Boise lately too. They're building hundreds of luxury apartments downtown. Some landlords are charging as much as $2,800 a month for 2-bedroom units. Yeah, well, they see the opportunity. They see that, hey, there is a market for that in Boise. And my personal opinion is that there's probably Californians who are just shooting up the coast to Boise because they see it as a lower priced market than the grand majority of California. And they see it as, very nice, very good quality of living, great place. While I was on my cruise about 2 weeks ago, I actually met another real estate investor on the cruise who was from the Boise area. And, he was telling me about how just crazy expensive Boise has gotten, which it's surprising because they don't think of Idaho as being a very expensive place. But a lot of things have changed all because of the pandemic and, people working from home. And, that allows people to move around to places they wouldn't normally have lived in. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting situation. And, I feel bad for the people from Boise who are now facing higher housing costs. But once again, in my mind, the solution would have been to buy a house. Then you would be the one who is benefiting from all of this appreciation. You would be one of the homeowners. They wouldn't be able to displace you, and you would be able to build wealth up. So, that would have been the smart thing to do in the past. Now, if you can buy a house now, buy it now. But, if you can't afford to live in Boise, you don't have a right to live there. And maybe, you might have to move further out, to the suburbs or, even maybe to a different city or state. But that is the fact of the matter. When you can't afford to live somewhere, you don't have a right to have housing there. And you shouldn't be able to force a landlord to house you there for, cheap, on their backs. That's completely ridiculous. Oh. With rents up sharply, investments are paying off. Out-of-state apartment developers have smelled opportunity in Boise lately too. They're building I already read that. But other landlords moderate the price increases for their existing tenants, at least for a while. They'll raise rents on new or newly vacated units to whatever the market will bear, but limit the yearly percentage increases for occupied units. They know that those tenants do for a living and what their incomes are. They see value in keeping such tenants and not playing the villain. Some, like Tomlinson, acknowledge the deepening lack of affordability and the suffering it can create. They want to try to solve the problem. Yeah, I mean, most landlords are not trying to displace people, but at the same time, we have to raise rents. We have to keep our rents at market rate, or we in the future could suffer just loss, okay? We need to bring our rents up to cover our costs, and that is the true reason why rents are increasing, okay? My price basis when I buy a property this year is a lot different than the price basis for your previous landlord who bought the property 10 or 15 years ago, okay? The interest rates are different. The cost of the property itself is different. The terms of my loan are different than his loan. I mean, there's so many factors involved. So don't look at the landlord like, hey, this is a bad guy. He came in here and then he immediately raised the rent. No, he came in here and he rose the rent to a point where he could make a healthy profit, just like the previous landlord did. But the previous landlord, was making a healthy profit based on his costs, not mine. Okay, so let me keep going. Figuring out how is the challenge. The biggest change driving prices up from landlords' perspective is the increasing costs of pretty much everything. Construction, property taxes, and maintenance. While tenants have been bearing the brunt of rent increases, landlords say the raises are necessary to keep up with those costs and to keep making as much money. The median rent per month in Boise is up to $1,259 according to Apartment List. In March 2020, it was $929. That's a 35.5% increase in 2 years. While some top-priced luxury units are offering move-in incentives, most apartments are being leased as fast as landlords can offer them. Vacant units are hard to come by. In the fourth quarter of 2021, the vacancy rate of rentals in Ada and Canyon counties was 1.6%, according to the National Association of Residential Property Managers. A balanced vacancy rate is considered 5 to 7%. So yeah, they have extremely low vacancy there, but that is proof positive they need to build more. They need to build a lot more apartments, okay? I've been looking all over town here in Omaha, and they've been throwing up apartment complexes all over the place because right now there is a demand, and they realize that, and the government here at least is supportive of developers building more more apartments. Okay, now I don't know what the government up there in Idaho is doing, if they're allowing apartments or not. If you're from Idaho and you're watching this video, leave a comment down below and let us know what's going on up with the government there. Are they allowing development, or is there a lot of NIMBYs up there protesting against new development, or is it just too expensive to develop? I mean, I'm just curious what the reason for not building just tons of new housing, considering just how popular Boise has become. But yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting article, and it's actually, it covers what's happening throughout the entire country, not just in Boise. Okay, some of the same things are happening right here in Omaha, Nebraska, or in Kansas City, where I also invest, definitely in places like Phoenix and on the coasts. And so when it comes down to it, though, what we need just people to understand that landlords are doing the best that they can with the rules that are in place. Okay, when we build or when we rent out our units, we expect to make money. Okay, we are not doing this out of the kindness of our hearts. Even this guy quoted in the article, he still expects to make a profit. Yeah, he believes that housing is a right, something I disagree with, but he expects to make a profit nonetheless. He's not going to do it just out of the kindness of his heart.